Somehow we gotta find a way. No matter how many miles it takes. I know it feels so good right now, but it all come falling down. When the night meet the light, turn the day. Can't stop, then you won't stop. I know just how that feel. When you're on top, till the ball drop. You never seem to be so real. It feels so good right now, but it all come falling down. When the night meet the light, turn the day. Feel it a little, feel it a lot. I'm swimming a bit, but deeper in thought. Keeping my head on top of my shoulders. Into some shit, I'm out of the box. This the level I'm on. Need it all right now and forever is gone. Baby, the weather is strong. Whether it's hot or cold, we're coming knocking on your door. Well, I'ma maintain, I'm staying so high. Built the ladder all the way up till we touching the sky. And you know you're dead wrong, you in love with a lie. All I wanna do is free your mind. We don't see no lines, we don't color inside. It's a very small world, we don't fuck with the size. Yeah, see the bigger picture when it's beneficial. Loving how it fits you, blow the whistle when you run out of time. Yeah, waking up, I open up my eyes. Do you mind if I blow your mind? A little closer, baby, don't be shy. Why you worried that it's gonna be fine? I guess that kind of day is really all I'm trying to say. We don't have a lot of time to waste. Somehow we gotta find a way. Somehow we gotta find a way. No matter how many.
Hey, welcome everybody to Rad Pod and Chill. High Fidelity, Jim Stewartson, Heidi Kuda here. And boy, that was a beautiful intro, hi-fi, and nice work opening with the wisdom of Wes Clark Jr., our very good friend and frequent Rad Pod guest. And yeah, happy to see you guys. Happy to be here. We were gone last week due to the holiday, but we thought that we should kick off the new year. And by the way, we all got family and everything around. There's going to be coughing. There's going to be cats. There's going to be kids. There's going to be dogs. There's going to be Hi-Fi's new bong that he wants to show everybody. It's going to be jumping off in here. Anyway, I am very happy to see you, gentlemen. I trust everyone had a good holiday. These are the last few days before the decapitation strike on America that's coming, looming our way. And I'm sort of in the heart of it right now, talking to some of my heroes. And by heroes, I mean, I'm kind of on a tour of people in real life who tried really, really hard for a different outcome. And this morning I had breakfast with veteran reporter Tom Carter. He's been a guest on our show. He's the Leonard Leo whistleblower who tried for 15 years to get media to pay attention to this so we would not look like Germany in the 30s. And Tom, you know, feels like he failed, but I look at him like a hero because he tried and continues to still try to do the work to let people know about the Leonard Leo judicial coup that happened with Catholic extremists on our Supreme Court, which paved the way for the mess that we're in. And so, you know, I just want people to know that their work mattered and still matters because, as Keir Giles said, someday maybe this will be over, but not today. Anyway, so we're going to show you some highlights from some of our favorite people from 2024, and we're going to be doing a precap on 2025. And Jim, I can tell by your visage that you're in a mood. So why don't you just let fly? Let's get kind of a TED Talk going or a hellscape going or whatever it is that you do. Let's do that thing you do.
I don't know. What do you want to talk about? There's so many components of our hellscape that have been the Hydra. Its many heads are.
Can we start with this thing? Can we
What's
start?
that?
That's good. Yeah.
Sanction. No.
You want
No.
Hi-Fi? Why don't you say a few words, and Jim will think about where
You can say a few words about it, but for me, it's a sign of the failure of our fucking intelligence community and justice system that we are the only people that we have charged again are the Russians and the Iranians. Now,
what's up with that?
In a sane goddamn world, you wouldn't have to do that because they're our fucking enemies. Why do we have to charge them with American crimes? Like, what kind of performative bullshit is this?
Yeah.
I'm not interested in this. Like, in the meantime, the Global Engagement Center is getting shut down on Biden's watch, and nobody's even saying a goddamn thing. The only disinformation agency left in the United States government went bye-bye under Biden. So, you know, I just like, I don't know,
that's some
man.
bullshit.
This fucking LARPing out here, you know, with these guys, you know, and what's his face? There was a big announcement from the FBI. We have new footage from the J6 pipe bomber. It was like, okay, so there's now why didn't you show us him putting the bomb in the fucking bush before? First of all, second of all, it's not that helpful. Third of all, my friends, Gal Squad fucking told you 3 years ago who did it. And I've said it 100 times in public, and he hasn't done shit. So I'm going to say it again. Ivan fucking Raikkonen. But guess
Allegedly.
what? Guess what the big revelation was in the new FBI footage? What's his height? They had all of a sudden now they have a estimated height. Now, you may ask, well, how does that match up with Ivan Raikkonen? You may ask, how does that match up with MTG, who was supposed to be the bomber, right? MTG is 5'3". Roseanne Barr, I need my pictures. Roseanne Barr is 5'4", and Ivan Raikkonen is 3 inches taller than Roseanne Barr. The pipe bomber is 5'7". Mike Flynn is 5'9", and he is 2 inches taller than Ivan Raikkonen. So anyway, Ivan Raikkonen is the same height as the fucking pipe bomber, and nobody else, to my knowledge, is even remotely close or even on the radar. And it's goddamn Ivan Raikkonen. And the point is not to, you know, go, I told you so. It's that this limited hangout LARPing fucking pretend FBI and DOJ, and I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck anymore.
I know you don't.
This entire 4 years has been a LARP. These guys have not done their jobs. And now at the last minute, before Chris Wray bows out like the little coward that he is, he's gonna make a big show out of, let's go get the pipe bomber 3 weeks before the inauguration of the guy who inspired the pipe bomber, who was the reason the pipe bomber did his thing, so that they could interrupt the peaceful transfer of power in the United States. Man. Anyway, you know, whatever, man. I apologize. It might seem like good news, and yay, we recognize foreign interference, but sorry, if somebody doesn't know that Russia and Iran and all these other motherfuckers are all up in our shit already, and not to mention once, you know, Tulsi or whoever the hell is in charge, right? We're open. We're wide open. And and we haven't even gotten into the fun that we had yesterday on New Year's Eve, and you know, all of that, right?
Yeah. Right.
So anyway,
why am I
wanted to fucking TED Talk? There it is.
Echoing. Okay, so that was cool. What I would like you to actually, what I had hoped you would start with, although I should have known that probably wouldn't be the case, because I know you're all feisty, but you wrote something really beautiful yesterday, and you probably already forgot about it because you've written like 3 subsequent things, but you reminded people that we need to retain our humanity and how to do it. And can you talk just a little bit about that? Because again, like, we know that this is a scary time, and there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of despair, but we also know that none of that leads to anything good, and that there's better frameworks we can be working from. And even talking to our friend Paul Nyland today in Ukraine, he kept telling me, you know, because I kept talking in terms of an elegy for America, and he kept telling me it's not over, it's not over. And from where he is in Ukraine, he sees how things can change in that Augenblick. He was part of Maidan. He understood that there comes a moment where you get rid of the guy that Putin installed, and it can happen very fast. And you wrote some beautiful words about that. So can you just share us, what your thoughts were and why you did it? I can pull up the column if you need me to cue you up.
No, that's all right. I mean, you want me to be emo? Is that what you want?
I want you to be a little
All right.
emo. Be a little emo, Jim, right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think you're talking about my non-resolutions,
Yes.
which were just, and how to say all this without feeling very cringy and cheesy.
Just embrace the cringe, bro.
Shut up. The basics of what makes people. Forget about Americans. Forget about any particular group. Just what are people supposed to be about, or at least civilized, modern, non, Cro-Magnon people, right?
Yeah.
And there's just a few things that came to mind, right? Truth. Like, we have to, for some goddamn reason, like, suddenly, like, we stand for truth. Yeah, no shit. Like, why is this a question now? Why is it like, why do we have to be like, we're truth tellers? Right. We really did. I mean, it wasn't always like this. There were always crazy fucking people in the world. Yeah. But it wasn't this absolute, like, insane split, right? Word. And my basic thing is, I just don't want my grandkids growing up not knowing what the fuck is real and what isn't.
I know.
I just don't. The second thing, and here's where it gets cheesier, is empathy.
Yeah.
Support. But and I mean that both from a, just a human point of view, but it's also the kryptonite of the adversary.
Yeah.
Right? These guys literally hate empathy and speak out against it.
Yeah.
Elmo's got all these, like, it recently said this thing about, well, there's shallow empathy where you care about people now, and there's deep empathy where you care about humanity later, which happens to be the pathway that gets him rich and a fucking colony on Mars and all this other fucking crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So just reaffirming, I'm not giving that up, because it makes me feel good to care about other people, just from a selfish point of view. And maybe that makes me woke or something, I don't know, but I like caring about people. I don't do it much because I don't like people very much, to be perfectly honest. I'm very clear about that. But I like to try to care about human beings. The third one is kind of related, is decency. Now, an important component of decency is, the way I described it is, I treat other people with respect until they prove to me that they don't deserve it.
Right.
And then I tell them exactly why they don't deserve my respect. And it's just this simple act of demanding respect from people. First of all, giving it, right? Assuming the other person is actually well-meaning, even if the evidence isn't there, right? You give them that chance. And then when they don't take the opportunity to be a decent human being, you explain to them why that's wrong. And it's a simple act. Courage, and again, not to be cheesy or serving, but
go all in on the cheese, bro.
All right. Courage is a muscle. It's a muscle.
Yeah.
And if you stop exercising it, like, the rule has to be that you do the right thing even when you're afraid of it.
Yeah.
Right? Fear should not be the thing that stops you. Is there a different
Yeah.
logical path that's stopping you? Right? Are there, like, do you have actual reasons for not doing the right thing? Right? Or are you just making excuses? Let's see. And there's only two more, so don't worry. Patriotism and on a related note, patriotism is not a spectator sport. You don't get to fucking sit in your basement with your Bud Light and cheer for Trump and and laugh at all the people who are being oppressed and call yourself a patriot. You're sitting there being an asshole. That's all that is. But patriotism, regardless of what you believe, is serving your country. Whether you do that in uniform or some other way, it's getting the fuck off your ass and trying to make it a better place than how you found it. And then the last one, and this is the hardest one, and I got a lot of pushback on this, and I'm going to fucking say it anyway. Forgiveness. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not a Christian, but as far as I know, that's a big deal in Christianity, right?
Yeah.
And it's for a reason it's a big deal. Because if you can't move on from things, right? If you cannot go forward in your life, nothing will happen. Nothing good will ever happen. There has got to be a moving forward. Forgiveness does not mean that everything is okay and you're going to go have fucking coffee. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means you as a person don't have to live with the hatred of others.
Yeah. It's good for your own soul. Yeah.
It's about everybody being a healthier human. So anyway,
and the most thank you for that.
Those are my thoughts.
That was beautiful. I read that and I was just so like proud of you, and so like it fortifies me, because those are the things that I keep writing about, the people who are working, on with organized crime to take over our country. They're unloved. They all hate each other. So of course they're not going to like empathy. Of course, they're not going to want us to be kind or to reunite with lost loved ones through the Trumpocene. So these are all strengths. Like, united is what we need to be. And like I say every single week, MAGA, if you're listening, we need you. Wake up from the dark fairy tales. You didn't know you were voting for the, transnational mob ring to do a decapitation strike on our country and take away Granny's Medicare, any of that. You didn't know that. So join us on loving your country in a healthy way and being pro-democracy again, is what I always say every week. But that forgiveness piece is really great, because you don't have to hang out with them. Just let it go. Feels better. It gets that darkness out of you. And then often it changes people when they don't feel they're attacked all the time, because we know the radicalization, cognitive dissonance. We've talked about it a million times, but high fidelity, deep thoughts with high fidelity right now.
It's not deep yet. I'm only halfway through the joint, but no, actually, I spent some time over the holiday, out traveling, seeing friends and family, making little road trips here and there. And I have some family who are conservative, and they're Trump people. And it was very simple. When the conversation turned to politics, as it often does, I simply said, I don't really care who you voted for. I don't really like Biden. I don't really like Trump. But I do know this: absolutely nobody voted for Elon Musk. So what do you think about that?
Mm-hmm.
That seems to bring people together real quick.
Good intel.
That was my the follow up to that one was, and I don't mean this as like a psyop or something, or like an influence thing, although it does work that way if you choose to think of it. But the split between Musk and the more sort of traditionalist, theocratic, neo-Nazi, alt-right MAGA is real.
Yeah. Wow.
And the H-1B thing was just a single sort of issue symptom of a much deeper, very, very serious ideological rift here. And maybe we'll talk about the Elon and Mars and all that shit later or whatever.
That's a fucking rabbit hole, dude.
It is,
Yeah,
but I think it's worth telling.
Jim can
But
do it in brief. Yeah.
but there's a anti-communist movement in America that is going to be going up against these guys, right?
Yeah.
Flynn, Bannon, Prince, all of these guys, right? They were willing to ride this guy's money, but he doesn't want to go after Iran. He doesn't want to go after China. He wants to create a multipolar sort of world where North America becomes just a giant gas station for his fucking Mars project, right?
Yeah.
Literally, right? We've talked about this. You got Greenland, Canada, Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, Panama, North America. They're trying to create an entire empire to sort of coexist in their minds peacefully with Putin's, because Elmo and Peter Thiel and these guys, have this ideology, this idea in their head that this deep empathy, right? What they're doing is good for us. It's for our own good, right? That in Musk's case, that the reason why he's so obsessed with going to Mars is actually a noble thing. It's actually, he's saving humanity from the meteors or whatever, right? Because if we burn up Earth, and billions of people are suffering and die or whatever, as long as we have like 1,000 weirdos in fucking spacesuits under the ground on Earth, that suddenly everything is better, and it's just complete bullshit. I just want to briefly tell this thing in case anybody missed it, because I think it's significant and points to just how fucked up this is. So I knew about this vaguely before, but then ran into it more recently, which is this odd fact, which is that there's a book called The Mars Project, a technical tale, which was published in 1952, that has a character in it who's the leader of a Mars colony. And the leader of the Mars colony is called the Elon. And you're like, oh, that's fucking weird. Why is there, Mars, Elon? I wonder if there's something to that, right? And so, I've seen that a couple other places or whatever, but always as sort of speculation. But I went and looked and found an interview from Elon Musk from 2 years ago. And Elon Musk said that Elon Musk was in fact named after the Elon. So what's up with this book? Well, it was written in 1948 by SS Untersturmführer Werner von Braun, who was literally a lieutenant Führer in the SS.
Nazi? Was he a Nazi?
He's a Nazi, but he was not just any Nazi. He was the one of the pioneers of rocketry, genuinely.
Interesting.
And he was also an avowed and happy Nazi who murdered 12,000 people in concentration camps building the V2 rocket. The V2 rocket was also known as the Vengeance rocket, and was done in response to America fighting back, and murdered 9,000 people in London and Antwerp in World War II. Anywho, so that Nazi was part of something called Operation Paperclip, which you may have heard of. Operation Paperclip was first it was OSS, which was the precursor to the CIA, and then it was CIA, a classified for 4 decades, and that's important. 4 decades, 1,600 that we know of, Nazis were running around in the United States being scientists and, people who were just immigrants from Germany, it happened to be. But we find out later that these are actual Nazis, and Werner von Braun has a building named after him in Alabama at NASA headquarters, because he was the director of the Marshall Space and Science Center for years and years in the 60s. Because Nazis were normalized in America. They were brought here, they were shipped here, and they were, because it was more important to have them than the lose the Cold War, according to anyway. So this is the guy that Elon Musk, as a schoolboy in apartheid South Africa, read the books of Nazi Werner von Braun, and that is what inspired him to name Elon. Now, almost done. There are a few other details that make it even more disturbing. You might recall that Elon has 2 companies having to do with building tunnels underground, right? He had the Hyperloop, which was just a big scam to get a bunch of government money, right, to do his research for him. And then there was this other company, which is the Boring Company, which cuts these giant fucking circles out of stone. Now, you may wonder, what the fuck does that have to do with Mars? Well, in the book Mars Project by Werner von Braun, Mars is actually a giant honeycomb of subway tunnels. And that's how they all get around in Mars. Now, what kind of a government is this, you might ask, this colony? Well, it is a dictatorship with a subordinate technocracy.
Wow.
So there is the leader of this thing that basically makes all the decisions. But beneath him is this sort of court of technocrats, engineers, scientists, all of the people that Elon Musk thinks should be running the world. That's why he's the techno king of Tesla. And that's why his grandfather, Joshua Haldeman, literally got arrested in Canada for being the leader in Canada of Technocracy Inc., which was a entire thing about a cult about how technocrats should run a fascist government all across the planet. And that was 8 years before Werner von Braun wrote his technocratic fantasy land about Mars, that genuinely, by all appearances, appears to be the blueprint for Elon Musk's life. Like, the whole thing is about a group of scientists on Earth and a feisty entrepreneur named Holt, who goes and marshals the forces of America to, get us to Mars. And then once we get there, there's a Mars colony, and the Elon is in charge.
Can I just say, this whole crew, this PayPal mafia, you've got Peter Thiel, you've got Elon Musk. Peter Thiel naming all the shit about.
I was expecting.
No. I'm holding off. It's not quite there yet. But Peter Thiel's doing this Lord of the Rings thing, right? He's got all these companies named up, and then we got Elon Musk, and it's just, they're all a bunch of really dangerous, weird nerds who are backed by currently the most dangerous man in the world, Vladimir Putin. And there's also G's there and MBS and MBZ. I think we can all see that by now. But why the fuck does our government not see that?
Well, the problem is that our government is dependent on these assholes.
Yeah, right.
And we've let them cozy up to every single one of our three-letter agencies uses Palantir.
Yeah.
They do. A huge percentage of our law enforcement uses Clearview.
Yeah.
The military is contracting with all these drone companies, Anduril and all these other ones that Teal and these assholes are all part of. I mean,
Palmer Luckey.
Right. Palantir was a CIA company. It's only while Peter Thiel owned it, like founded it. Palantir was strictly the only client was the CIA until who was their second client? You may ask. Mike Flynn.
I was going to say Mike Flynn. Gateway to that.
And when was he using it?
In Afghanistan. In Afghanistan with Eric Prince. Yeah. He said, "Oh, you know what we really need is some of this crazy software we heard about." You know, and got Palantir there first. So the point is with these companies, right? Palantir, Clearview, the drone companies, they are set up to what? To profit from death, suffering, chaos, right? It's all part of this dark enlightenment thing that we've been talking about, because the dark enlightenment requires this sort of chaos of death, and you know, it's basically the singularity equivalent of, you know, the end times or the apocalypse or whatever, right? And so Peter Thiel, literally decades ago, when he said out loud that democracy and freedom are no longer compatible, set up an entire set of companies to ensure that that's true, to destroy democracy. And so he built a web of these companies. Now, that's bad enough, but the government subsidized the whole fucking thing. And in the meantime, next to him is his buddy Elon Musk, who with Dana Rohrabacher, who you know, Heidi, walked him into Congress and came out with space contracts somehow. And if you don't know Dana, he is the most Russian motherfucker that ever walked the floors of Congress.
Yeah.
And none of these things are a coincidence. These assholes have been up to this for a long time.
I just thank you so much for that, Jim. I made me think of two things. One, this book, Karen DeWeesha wrote, Putin's Kleptocracy. That's my upcoming book report. She explains how it was all done, and it's kind of like a blueprint for what's coming here. So it's very, very useful. And also what's really important about it is Karen DeWeesha, who was an academic who studied, you know, Russia and Ukraine and Eastern Europe. She basically was able to write this book with the depth that she wrote it because it was before Putin had scrubbed the internet. So she still had access to Russian journalists and Russian bloggers. So she was able to really get into how it was never a democracy in the process of failing. It was always an autocracy in the process of succeeding. So I'm going to be writing about the bandits of St. Petersburg, and it's going to be really great because she really explains how they did it. And you can see the blueprint for what's coming clearly. The other thing I wanted to say, which is not really a sidebar about what you said, but I just found it fascinating. 2 weeks ago Friday, so a day after the last Rad Pod and Chill, I put together my most recent hot type column based on our interview with Michael McKay about like what Biden should do, which we talked about, the you know, the three things that Michael said he could do, plus a few things that we added, you know, which was, you know, support Ukraine going into NATO, let them use the weapons wherever they want to use the weapons, and, you know, declare Russia a terrorist state, release the list of 600 names, that kind of stuff. But what I found interesting was during the interview with Dr. McKay, he basically said how Moldova had its own oligarch. Remember, he said that, didn't know his name. So I researched it and found out his name was Elon Shore. Weird, right? Ilan, Elon, variation on the spelling. Just a weird coincidence. But he not only owned, a vast amount of Moldova, he also did a criminal fraudy move to drain the wealth out of a Moldovan bank. The Moldovans then chased him out of the country, seized all his assets, convicted him of fraud, and then doubled the sentence in absentia. So this particular oligarch, who is still trying to manipulate elections, is now living in Moscow in Russia, where he just got citizenship. So they chased him out of the country because they knew what he was doing Putin's bidding, and they got rid of him. And I bring it up because I think we are limited in our thinking about some of the things that we could possibly do. And also in that piece, which I know I shared with you guys, is, and this came from Michael again, we're just one of almost like 24 countries that Russia's doing the exact same techniques to mess with our elections and our inability to govern ourselves democratically. And America is not alone in being the target of this. We just happen to think we're so exceptional that it can't happen here. And it did happen here. And this is where we are. So I want to make sure, last thing about Moldova, and I know I shared it with you guys, but I don't know if I shared it with our viewers. The 2016 election in Moldova completely parallels the Trump-Clinton election, where a woman was going up against pro-Russian man. They did nothing but misogyny all day long. Didn't even try to prop up the guy, just burned the witch consistently all day long. She lost, he won, but she came back 4 years later and won in 2020. And she came back another 4 years after that and won again in 2024. And during the period, they've been purging their country of these Russian operatives. And I just think like little Moldova, with its history of, corruption and all the things that it has gone up against, being, very close to the, mafia, crime syndicate of Russia over there. And we can't do anything. We are
Well, you just explained why in that sentence, because they're close to it, because they know what
they
it
know what
is,
it is.
because they've seen it, because they experienced
Yeah.
it, because it's their next door neighbors.
Yeah.
And we're a bunch of coddled fucking Americans who just hasn't been apparently close enough to what actual except for black people and other people in this country,
right.
We just haven't experienced this kind of thing. Maybe the Great Depression the last time, before that Civil War, maybe. But
we used to mow together against enemies, foreign and domestic, and we're just not. We're fractured, which is why Jim's piece that I had him open with was so important, because unless we are united, we lose this country indefinitely in any way, shape, or form that we used to recognize it.
Well, I just wanted to say, like the splitting of the electorate by by foreign adversaries, this kind of thing has been done before, but not on this scale. But I just have to say again, and as much as it's great to talk about the things Joe Biden could do, he's fucking not going to. He's not going to do a thing, right? He performatively gave Liz Cheney an award, and I'm like, my idea is like, don't give her an award, like have the Democrats make her speaker or something, right? Maybe because we've got literally the Republicans, and this is there's a little thing to hang on here, is that there's one vote in that the House can lose on anything.
Yeah.
Right. If the Democrats stay together, including, by the way, this speaker thing starting tomorrow.
Wow.
There are literally zero people in the world that they're going to get 218 Republicans to vote for. It's fucking impossible. These people are insane. Like if you get right, so last time there were 15 rounds or something like that, right?
Oh my.
So, I'm like, look, let them absolutely like spiral themselves into the dirt for as long as possible. Let it go on forever, and then be like, okay, we can help you out, but we are nominating somebody, and somebody that we think we should compromise on, whoever that is, whether it's her or Kinzinger or somebody, right? Just to actually push back on this shit instead of this performative, like, it just really, really bothers me that this administration isn't being serious with us in any way.
Isn't there a list of
about
600 influencers or journalists or whatever who were
Yeah.
taking money from
Yes, there
Russia?
are, and it's not going to happen.
happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's not gonna happen.
It's not. That's the thing. I don't want to.
Can I just need to bring something back from a few weeks back when I said Joe Biden was going to go out like a bitch and everybody yelled at me.
I know, but it doesn't
Yeah,
help.
right.
And
I mean,
like, yeah, we need a leader, we got a bureaucrat, and we need leadership, and it's not forthcoming. So
yeah, I mean, for me, the point is, like, we gotta move on, and because we have 18 days until this thing goes down.
gnarly.
So right now, the hopium and so time's over.
Yeah.
Time's over for that.
I would like to play dirty.
Let me finish my sentence. Right now, we got to get ourselves and our families and our inner circles together. We got to get our own close networks together so that we can all be ready for what's to come. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I just think it's like, if there were any Democrats who had any guts left at all, they'd be willing to start playing dirty and start doing some of the same things back.
There aren't.
I know
there aren't. We got to stop.
What happened? How did the Democratic Party get so emasculated? I mean,
well, they weren't listening to us
this way.
They weren't listening to us about information warfare. That's the perfect place to start doing our clips. Yes, Jim.
But also we are now we've been in a perpetual abusive relationship.
Yeah, true.
Right? We've had numerous people on our show describe all the fuckery that has gone on historically. Forget about 2016, 2020, or 2024.
Yeah.
Every single Republican since Nixon has been, including Nixon, has been elected by cheating.
Truth.
And the Democrats' job is to fucking roll over for it every single time, and then go fix it all, and then let them do it again. And that is simply a function of it really is. True. There's like two sides. It's like a kabuki that not to get all conspiratorial, but the fucking the money, the corporations want it, right?
Yeah.
They want it.
Yeah.
Which is why it always seems like the press is like veering us towards the worst possible scenario during any election, right? Part of the reason for that is, yes, foreign interference, but part of the reason for it is that the reason why foreign interference works like that is because our corporate media and these conglomerates that own these places make money on both sides of this game, man. The thing that's important to them is that there be a game, right? That there be all this LARPing about politics that goes on, while in the meantime, the reality is something completely different.
I would say that the muted response that we've discussed, being here in the heart of it, it's interesting to see people quietly in fear. And that is like something I will be writing about, just talking to, getting those MOSs, man on the streets, drivers, like it's fear, it's and again, this goes back to like no leadership. People are like, what's going to happen? There's no leadership. There's like, we're going to pretend this is normal and have a peaceful transfer of power to a, organized crime ring. And that's just not cool. So I do think that it's important that people understand that we have been interviewing the best people and the greatest minds and the most significant historians, really since the beginning of RadPod. But I think 2024, with Dr. Marcy Shore and Nancy McLean coming back, and Jason Stanley and Gareth Gore, who wrote the most incredible, book, basically is part of this network that has really harmed our country so profoundly. I think it'd be great maybe to show Jason Stanley. He, of course, wrote how.
What we're seeing is a classic fascist grouping in many countries. What do I mean by a fascist grouping? What I mean is a kind of corrupt party or leader telling the Christian conservatives, the evangelicals in the country, that he will get their agenda done for them, telling the big business interests, especially the petrocarbon industry, that he will make sure that no climate change legislation happens. We're finding a very typical and standard, back to Nazi Germany, link up against labor movements, where the corrupt fascist, the corrupt leader or party is saying to businesses, we'll take care of your labor union problem. We'll make sure you can keep on polluting the environment, exploiting your workers, and then telling evangelicals, the LGBT community is a dire threat to your children. Then we're seeing in the United States, we're seeing increased anti-Semitism, which is predictable. We've been having many years of dogma-sowing anti-Semitism. So this fascist grouping of religious nationalists, together with big business, behind an autocratic leader who's representing democracy's liberties.
I have a confession to make.
Uh-huh.
I have a confession to make. That may have accidentally been from the. That may have actually been from his 2022 or 23 interview. I was high when I put it together. I thought it was
Doesn't matter.
2024, but
no, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That was really important. That really summed
it is
up.
important.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean there is this like agreement, right, between Putin, the theocrats, and then this dark enlightenment, like weird PayPal mafia, fucking group. But that conspiracy is also a weakness.
I agree.
Right. And what we've been seeing with Bannon. So I don't know if you guys saw, if you're not on Twitter, bless you, you're very, very smart. But if you are, you might have seen homeboy go Keckius Maximus. Yeah. Did you guys see that bullshit? So, or Keckimus Max, I don't know.
I put it in the intro.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's basically Elon Musk LARPing as a Gamergate asshole from 2015.
Yeah.
It's like he's got the Pepe on, and he's going keck, and he's playing the video games to prove how he's just one of the MAGAs, right? Now this is after calling MAGAs subtards and the arded right and crackheads and ungrateful motherfuckers and all, not counting the Adrian Dittman.
Yeah.
Freak out. So we won't go there. But he's been just like awful, just insulting, terrible, like brutally basically saying, and Vivek said it too, basically Americans are too stupid, right, we're too stupid, and so we have to import the real smart ones from the other places, but
cheap now.
but in the right, and so Bannon and all these other guys go off, and what does Elmo do? Is the next thing he does, he puts on this like this Gamergate Nick Fuentes Groyper sort of thing, Checkimus Maximus, and he playing video games, and he's trying to be one of the boys, right? It's like, hello, fellow kids, I'm here to be your alt-right.
I want to ask you something about that guy.
Buddy.
You guys will know this. You know, Jackie's the one who told us that there's buildings all over the world that do nothing but have people with PhDs trying to figure out how to operate, do psychological operations on countries like ours. And we also learned from Zarina that there's actually a job in Russia called political technologist, and all they do is write the scripts about this kind of stuff for outcomes. So I'm curious if you think that there's a political technologist that is working with him, whatever, to basically do all this targeting. Because obviously when Hi-Fi said that X was a $44 billion PSYOP cannon to everybody's minds, and Brent Allpress said that, he purchased Twitter in order to influence the outcome of the 2024 election. And Jim said that it was the biggest radicalization ever seen in history with no off-ramp. You guys were all right about that. That was something you said years ago when nobody was talking about any of that. They were just looking at the money and thinking it was stupid. We have seen the outcome of it on everything we warned about. So I'm curious if you think that there is somebody that's driving that script, and it's not just some random.
Yeah. No. This is a professional, very professional operation. He's got I mean, it's an alternate reality game.
Right. Exactly.
It's exactly what I saw with Q. Like the whole briefly, the whole reason I got into this was because I saw Q was like this omnipotent fucking weird LARP. So LARP, live action role play character, that I don't know, was like, why are people following this LARP? Because I know how those work, and how you give it validation by making another character over here that says, oh, I love this character, right? And so I know all of those tricks. And so I saw this with Q, and now Elon Musk is doing all the same shit at the same the same tactics. But and so what you've seen, anybody who's still there again, and you're For You, that is just a literal recipe for brainwashing people into this ideology. So no matter who you follow, what you say, anything, it's going to be Elon Musk and wokeness and libs of TikTok, and here's a Nazi who's literally saying we should eliminate Jews, and here's another, that's what's in the For You tab, and that is there's a lot of other dynamics and whatnot, but that is a huge weapon.
Yeah. So there's about
600 million people, hundreds of millions of people that go in this thing. So, for example, and I'll land, there's an account called End Wokeness, which is by all manner of what I can figure out, basically Jack Posobiec. And Jack Posobiec was one of the sort of core members of the team that started Pizzagate, that started QAnon, that did all of these, enormous psychological operations. Mike Flynn has been feeding his bullshit into Elon Musk forever, and Elon Musk is on the phone with Vladimir Putin. Many times, according to reports. And all Elmo has to say is, "Can you help me out with, how's this work over here?" And Bob's your uncle. It's not that difficult. When you have this scale, it's not that hard.
That's right. And the whole thing that we learned, this is not free speech, where this is not about censorship. This is an operation on the minds of Americans and the minds being poisoned toward an outcome, which has nothing to do with free speech or censorship. It has to do with war. We are a target nation of a warfare that we haven't experienced at this grade before. And I wish somebody in our country gave a shit about it the way Moldova does and the way Romania does and the way Georgia does. That would be super great. So I do get a little bit heated when I hear this because it's so obvious to us. We're three people, three parents who give a shit about our kids' futures, who put everything on the line to do this work, and we don't have any backup. And it's just, it's sad and alarming simultaneously. And we have 3 more clips and our hours are almost up, but I really do want to see the clips. Hi-Fi. Can you do Marcy Shore?
And another thing I would emphasize here, both for people of younger generation who don't remember the Soviet Union and even for those of us who do, is that it was the largest, most far-reaching, deepest penetrating, grandest scale social engineering experiment ever performed on mankind. We are still in some ways coming to terms with the sheer scale of the experiment and the sheer scale of the catastrophe. It was in many ways unprecedented. It was an attempt not just to remake a government and not even just to remake a society. It was an attempt to re-engineer human beings.
Re-engineering human beings. Why does that sound like, I don't know, transhumanism?
Well, there's that, but Orwell wrote Big Brother, in many ways based on some of on communism, right? Doublethink and all of these things. You can see, and I won't get into it because we're going to watch clips, but you can see a lot of the old Soviet techniques being used right in front of us all day long by the richest man on earth.
So
and those are basically they end up in Soviet style societies where and it's really important to understand that society is fundamental. They don't think like us.
They don't.
They really don't. There is no sort of objective morality. It's all dialectic. It's all relative. So every side has every issue has 2 sides. There's not really a right and a wrong, and that way the sort of controlling power can decide for you which is right and which is wrong.
Here's what's very scary. Going back to the dossier that revealed all the fake websites designed to look like Western websites, Western news websites. And I talk about this a lot because it's very alarming to me. The Russians running that operation, one in particular who was in contact with Elon Musk, they know truth. They understand it very clearly. They knew exactly what they were doing to us. They were not confused about reality. The people targeting us are very clear-minded and very lucid about how they're attacking us. So I just want to bring that up. It's not like
they have their algorithm. They step by step. Here's a 7-step.
It's a battle plan.
Number 3 has
it's
multiple steps.
Spreadsheets.
It's a battle plan.
And they worked directly with Putin, and Musk was in contact with the head of that operation, the doppelganger operation, and Vladimir Putin. So what do we not know about what's happening to America? And
well, we charged the Russians though.
Yeah.
And the Iranians. And the Iranians.
Okay.
No, well that just happened. But I mean,
So the people delivering it.
Actually, forgive me. We charged 2 Russians.
Can I just say something real fast? it's not just the Russians. We talk a lot about the Russians, but I think there's some other people involved. And I want to bring this up because probably our biggest interview of last year was this guy, and it's this Gareth Gore in his book Opus.
I spoke to the US head of Opus Dei, the guy who was head of Opus Dei in the United States in the 2000s and the 2010s. He told me, I paraphrase him slightly, but these were almost his exact words. He told me that the Da Vinci Code was the best thing that's happened to Opus Dei almost in its entire history. So Dan Brown almost did them a favor. So, clearly Dan Brown's novel was a work of fiction. And what he did was he took, and novelists do this the whole time. They take elements of real life and they fictionalize them. And Opus Dei was able to run with that quite successfully. So what it did was it said, look, this guy, this albino monk that's out there assassinating figures and stuff, this is so like left field and so crazy that, look, if you really want to learn about the real Opus Dei, then we'll come and we'll tell you all about it. So they used it very successfully to market themselves to a much bigger audience. Suddenly the book catapulted them into the mainstream, and they were able to really ramp up the recruitment efforts. So the Da Vinci Code did them a huge favor, in fact. Although, some of the elements that Dan Brown touches on in his book are absolutely true. He talks about, the group's medieval practices and its abuse of women. He talks about these things in the book, but because obviously he kind of goes a step too far in fictionalizing things, then they ran with that and were able to.
Yeah.
So like 12,000
Gore,
people have watched that.
Yeah, that's big for us. Tom Carter would like, in the interview I did with Tom Carter today, the Leonard Leo whistleblower, he would like everybody to buy Gareth's book. The last 100 pages of the book are about Leonard Leo. I want to go back to Marcy Shore for a second, though, because everybody knows her husband's work, Timothy Snyder, who wrote, On Tyranny, On Freedom, and Bloodlands, and, just incredible, the making of modern Ukraine. But Dr. Marcy Shore, you have to read The Ukrainian Night. That is the most important thing that you could do in this moment right now, because it might give you some ideas on how we get rid of this regime or force them to collapse by the weight of their own corruption much quicker. So I'd like everybody to read her book, The Ukrainian Night. If you don't read, get it on audio tape and listen. It's beautifully read. I did both. And it was hearing the stories of people who stood up for their country in this incredibly profound revolution to get rid of the guy Paul Manafort installed for Putin might give America some ideas. She also wrote incredible, that is one of many incredible books she's written, but I recommend it. It's important. All right. So last clip.
It feels like billionaires are trying to murder the future so they can get another dollar.
Yeah.
Wow. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow. Yeah, that was a pithy version of one of the most important questions we face.
That's his area of expertise.
Yeah, I can tell you by way of preface to my answer that I am a board member of an organization called the Excessive Wealth Disorder Institute. So I could not agree more.
Can I get a membership card? Can I get a membership card?
But this is another place, right, where we have to start changing the language we use, because you're exactly right. It is a disorder. These people are sick. I mean, literally, can you imagine, like, here you are, I know Charles Koch the best, but you have over $50 billion, right? Over 50, like you can't even, who could spend that? You can't even do anything. But at this point, you have to assume that their brain circuits, right, are so distorted from the years of the adrenaline rushes of getting to that amount of wealth, like Elon Musk, or these other people. And they're getting more and more crazy because they just want to keep going back and sucking more wealth out. And for me, as a US historian, the best analogy that I can think of is the enslavers. right? Who brought on the Civil War, going back to your point, Heidi, about treason and traitors, the militant enslavers of the South, excited by people like John C. Calhoun. John C.
Yes.
Calhoun, who said on the Senate floor that slavery is a positive good
Yeah.
as an answer to abolitionist organizing and agitation. John C. Calhoun envisioned this whole system, this kind of anti-democratic system that was later picked up by James Buchanan that I wrote about and Charles Koch. But so they understood the biggest plantation owners, the people who made the most money from trading in men, women, and children, who were in bondage, that they treated as property. They understood that in a republic, in a place where there was popular, we the people were supposed to be in control, that system could not last, right? That democracy was going to come after that system, which it began to do. And so that is why they seceded from the Union, to be able to continue their highly profitable and absolutely disgusting enterprise, right? They're morally reprobate, like there's so many words you could use for what they were doing, which we could also repurpose for fossil fuels, right?
Yes.
That same drive that you're talking about, where the most crazy luxury is never enough, right? If you own 400 people, you want to own 600. If you have, you know what I mean. I mean, I am
Yes.
ranting now, but your point is really important, in that we have to start recognizing there's something wrong with these people, right?
Yeah.
Like, they are not figures to be emulated. They are figures to be controlled for the survival and the well-being of the rest of us. I also like the phrase and I can't remember who I got it from, but our capitalist overlords. I think
Yeah.
that's a good one, But these people are riding us, right? They've got the saddle on, they've got now the spurs and the reins. And the question is, are we going to overthrow them, or are we going
Nancy's fucking
She's
metal.
so
I love her.
bad
I love her so much.
ass.
I mean, look, the thing that she's saying there about slavery, I need people to really grasp. These people are pro-slavery. I mean, literally pro-slavery. Like that is where this is going. It is not a coincidence that Elmo, Peter Thiel, David Sachs, who's going to be the crypto AI czar, are all products of apartheid, which was slavery, was legalized, institutionalized fucking slavery, and they really, really actually want it back, along with this sort of idea, this reanimation of eugenics. These things are the same. They see humans, they see our labor as as a prize, as the booty at the end of their enormous pirate heist of America. That's what they think of us, and they really don't give a shit. Last thing, Curtis Yarvin said, about immigrants, and he's kind of their guru, that they should be used as biodiesel. That is what these people think of human beings, and for me, that's over my dead body stuff.
Right on. And here's the thing, Hi-Fi always said this early on, how science fiction, because it made me think of Soylent Green, how science fiction was never supposed to be a user manual, like a guidance to our future. And here
It's
it is,
crazy how
that
much
that
sci-fi.
Elon story that you told. I mean, that is just,
It's not just that
I
though.
know.
Like his whole other thing is this guy named Ian Banks, who wrote a whole series about a spacefaring future human race that didn't really have to do anything. Why? Because they were connected in their brains to AI, who made all the decisions. And how are they connected to
thank you.
the AI? Through something called Neuralase.
Wow.
Now, you may not realize, but Elon Musk has a company called Neuralink, and guess what their product is? That connects your brain to AI. If you said Neuralase, you're correct. He's literally living out these fucking sci-fi books with us as his little pawns. Personally, I'm sick, I'm fucking tired of it already.
Me too.
And they
Me too. Want to stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
So that was our first show of 2025. And I will say, all around Washington, you say like, Happy New Year, and everyone's like, I guess, like happy, like, oh, yeah, I don't know.
okay, whatever.
Happy New Year. We're here.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to be.
Or we can
greeting
just say
people.
New Year. I think that's fair.
I'm gonna.
New Year.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna greet people.
Yeah.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Okay.
New Year. Hey, New Year.
Hey,
Okay, High Fidelity.
you know what?
Sorry.
We're gonna pause for
I'm gonna sneak one in at the end. Michael McKay gets the final word this week.
Oh,
The Helsinki Commission recently released a report on Russia's shadow war and identified 150 different operations, as you see here. Quite a few in the United States, obviously. What is keeping Biden from acting?
Nothing is keeping him from acting. He has a duty to defend the United States. It is actually his first duty.
Yes.
It's his first duty, and nothing is stopping it other than just a failure of vision to realize what's going on and how the catastrophe is here. People say things like, oh, you need Congress to declare war or something. And so, no, you simply just say this is what's happening. Russia is at war. This is the nature of the war. These are the campaigns of the war. And it also puts Trump in a box about where he stands in all this kind of thing. Why he doesn't do it even just for